This Spring Eternal, the ninth one. Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Richard Millett, the one and the only. And we hope that you enjoyed our wonderful opening act, God's Gift. And we're going to salute and dedicate this performance to happy 81st birthday to the one and only, the master, truly the master, the one from man from Hibbing, Minnesota, Robert Allen Zimmerman, Bob Dylan, the one and only. There's nothing else like him, and there never will be ever fucking again. So it'll come in some other form, in some other way, but that is the best that is ever going to be. So, no one else, truly, no one else can do it better. So, saw him a couple of years ago. Was it going on 3 years ago? Yeah, it was just months before the pandemic started. He was incredible, and still truly going down his own path. You know, if you include his live performances as sort of an part of his art, in addition to making albums and all the other stuff, writing songs. It's unmatched. It's such a vast body of work. So yeah, I saw him 3 years ago. And I mean, I've seen him a lot over the years. I started seeing him in '96, so I go way back, yeah, with him, and there's truly nobody else like him. So happy 81st birthday, Bob. God bless you. I hope you live to be, 190. So let us get started with what we do. This is called Flowers at the Foot of the Cave. And let's see what we got going on here. Ugh, excuse me. In your face. One of the great Old Dirty Bastard lyrics. In your face like a can of mace. Great lyric. That first album, pound for pound, has like the best one-liners. It's like the most quotable. That first album's like Pulp Fiction in terms of the density of its quotability. I quote it constantly. All right, Flowers at the Foot of the Cave. Swinging light bulb above a cracked basement window, a painting depicting the creation of creation, and a makeshift bed. I made up a new name for you that I'll only keep in my head. My head. Look at the jewel resting in the bottom of the wooden cup, the stack of handwritten sheets explaining the steps of the ritual in rich, deep red, and the names of everyone there exist in my head. My head. Charcoal renderings of saints ripped from a magazine and pinned to the door, dented bits of metal shaped to make a mosaic and pushed into the floor. Quarter-inch thick spray-painted silver ribbons looped like ringlets in the air, and the floating stray white veins from a feather landing on your hair. Here I sit half childish, with freshly washed clothes strewn over the chair. A tray with orange peels, melon rinds, and empty glasses rests balanced on the table's edge, while I am reading a map leading to a room more colorful than the womb, where I can overhear things other than gurgling and organs rushing. But still, this will always be in its infancy, because love is where Genesis greets infinity. And for proof, you can look in my eyes, even though I won't confirm or deny how much of this is true. But I trust that will get worked out by you. Doing okay out there? Good. It's called Milky Skies. For 3 weeks I've seen the sky as one color stretched over a muted spectrum, and I've heard tiny handbells clang at irregular intervals. Without forethought, I was in a state of unstable concentration, with my sense of decency tested. I stared at celeste-colored veins and remembered how they were made. I was reminded of the worm, thankful to be placed back in the dirt after suffering a 2-inch gash on its side from careless shoveling. The youngest lady stops weeping and waiting and steps into invisibility, her velvet-lined pockets filled with small wreaths of braided blue stems. While embarrassed at how much she once admired her mother's brooches, she now fully blushes at her wish to own an ocean full of stone. Her friends repeatedly requested questions only furthers her hesitation, so she leaves a small note of explanation. Life is grossly inelegant in its demands that one must impatiently forget chores performed with red impressions left intact, from knots affixed to ankles and wrists, as if the sores never existed. Shock of copper curls, cerulean halos in his eyes, considers his environment, and with his shoulders pinned back, adjusts his balance and stands straight up in his raft. The one idea that has possessed him so vanishes out from his mind, pierces the sea, then its velocity escapes gravity and reaches away past the sky, but he fears no lack of purpose, or whether this time has been meaningless. He has total devotion to the base truth of his vocation. His ankles give way, and he falls back gently, lands on his hands while some water splashes in, and he considers those who would deride his actions and thinks, I don't require any clothes. I'd rather remain naked for everyone. I felt watched when I first voluntarily gave away confidential information, then tried to explain the layout of San Antonio to a stranger who never knew I'd never been there before. And now, as minutes become limitless, any vows I made always sustained me. I felt watched when my thinking was clean and capable of strict reasoning, and I rode along freshly painted runways, left notes on license plates, brambles, and high chairs. And now, as lassitude disintegrates, any vows I made remain unchanged. I felt watched when my legs were bathed in a heat as persistent and unruly as a bat taunting a seal, repeatedly landing on its shoulder and squealing. And now his fury impassively fades, any vows I made could never break. I felt watched when I attended 10 drawing classes and attempted to finish a full circle freehand without interference between thought and motion. And now that my hands are finally patient, any vows I made are everything. Here she flies, and now we know if the promises made more than 10 years ago have been kept. Here she flies with 2 pens, rosary, brass paperweight, earrings, locket, and measurements written out on a business card. Here she flies, gums and hair receded, a miniature brace for a baby wrapped in gray-hardened plastic. Here she flies with an oxygen tank bubbling ceaselessly, a UHF channel on the television showing an old western silently. Here she flies while I stand with tentative confirmation, a glass of thickened water and 3 empty white boxes. Here she flies, with skin like marble over winding staircases and rooms with seafoam-colored walls and intimidating machinery. This is called When I Look. I wrote a book I did in 2009 called Present. Still a major favorite of mine. When I look and walls are in the wind, when I see you're unsure how to begin, I promise soon you'll be laughing with friends in open gardens clapping. When you see, you remember every dream. So we find it's simple to forget. So you find that you are very blessed. Through windows at sunset silently, faces meet your eyes, smiling serenely. So you find you remember every dream. And you try imagining all things beyond eyesight in air, over our celebration, beneath streets unknown, untouched 40 fathoms deep, too far to reach. When I look and talk to you, I know. When you see, you will never be alone. The mirror reflects a statue, lilac, bush, and bee, and we agreed feelings can create reality. When you see, you remember every dream. In a near, eclipsing, absorbing, transmogrifying wood, water, and sand, pushing till the horizon is vanishing, scraping outer limits, distant and away. This is from a book from 1996 called Plastic Candy Fetish. This is called Water Oracle. I'm ready for the unfolding trains to chip away my splintered pins, waiting for the train's arch sticky impulses and the pleasures of humidity, preparing to dance with a China doll face and blue faded ignorance, squelching archaic, lice-like, traditional, hidden dominations. I'm ready for an illustrious glass night with cotton candy laughter that tastes like grapes, not expecting anything and completely aware of every encrusted idea. I accept the contradictions and the willingness to end, where restless ruminations of sight won't find me cracking my hands. I want to relapse memories of spontaneity and bicycle womb wheels and blood blisters. She might be coming, unshaved at any time, to real flow what won't be said to abolish illusions from exile frenzy, sleeping and dangling on terry cloth mattresses, and waking rank porcelain into the morning. This is from 2019. This is called The Vatican Vaults. Shelves lined with caskets, ripe fruit piled up in baskets. Sugar cubes and teacups rattle as saucers are dragged across tablecloths. Outside, a crowd sits murmuring. A harmonium coughs discordantly off the spokes of a bicycle wheel, and snakeskin is carefully wrapped around palms. Two men each wear a veil, one off mauve, the other pink lady red. Gravel sits at the bottom of stained glass vials, and mink pelts are smoothed out over the tiles. Three elderly spinsters raise their voices in praise, their weathered hands shaking at the sky. Gold medals tied around their waists reflect the sun directly into children's eyes. Four blind beggars fool the crowd into believing they're brothers who compete by tying knots in rope faster than any comers, the act only ending at dusk when they split their spoils. Stars roll around the moon, back and forth from end to end. Clouds erase them away when each new day begins. This is called 3% Profit. Waking up to the sun-soaked world and the eyes of a diamond stretching out from a full circle, I was at a recital resting on a bed of feathers and then floated to the front of the festivities. A Mercury step leap through the lake and land in a leafy soft meadow, my legs a blurring winding wheel. My mom and dad hold out boxes, they walk together to an airplane, then climb up and run across the wings. But soon it's nice and quiet for me, as we can plainly see. I tied a string around an anteater, as we can plainly see. The newspaper says it's better to have metal teeth, as we can plainly see. But I would rather bathe in butter, as we can plainly see. I nicked a little bit of a hammer and nail on my way onto the helicopter. What I knew of physics sped up my entrance. Never seen the sky be so brave and wide, or thought about the joy in watermelons. And when I carefully left the step stool and went into the underground ice tunnel, I ran across a humidifier so the motor could keep my feet warm and not get harmed by frostbite. My eyes hide behind a pregnant woman's stomach while a laser rings into my ears. I try to open a case of sewing supplies, but to my surprise, the latch is bandaged shut. I breathe yellowed air and drink bubbling water and play with friends who live in the shower. I put a cold stream of thoughts in a brown paper bag and wonder where I could tap the telephone. I freeze my face in photos so that I'm not recognized while I page through my scrapbooks. The bugs and the cracks decline my invitations to dance, so therefore they're unwanted. I hiss into the sink until they crawl back so that my party can stay filled with levity and not too much gravity, so I paste my Polaroids all over the walls in geometric patterns and steal some dinner from the next-door neighbors as it's their fault for having given me a key. My sleeves festooned with pins and wind chimes dangle and jangle, thus announcing my arrival. A curl in the best nest with an arm that won't do you harm. An idol vibrating on a whirring appliance as we can plainly see. And soon I'm ready to eat, nothing moving suddenly as we can plainly see. And even sooner still time to sleep. Here's to a night of pleasant dreams as we can plainly see. It's also from 1996. It's called Corsage. I've been waiting. It's been too long, but now you're here and I don't want to waste any more time. An invitation, a collage reality. Gilded curtains, blue carpets, singed rose thorn blood. Apples and lasagna swathed over your stomach. Sometimes I miss you. Sometimes you hate me. Boiling and dark. Searing in rhinestones. X-ray angel. Melting crucifixes. Smiling faces. It's so easy to forget everyone. It's so easy to adore you. Sunrise on the Caina Islands, watching from the shore. Take a picture so I won't forget. Sunrise on the Caina Islands, drawing with my eyes. Save it so I won't forget. Azure bird observes the river in its shimmering glow. Ranulph finds walking across the soil while filming the sky. I don't see the bell, there must not be one. The lane and land both bend to shape the horizon. Sunrise on the Caina Islands is eclipsing time. Save it in a flash of light, drawing with my eyes. This is from a book I did called The Female Perspective. It's about, the middle's all sarcastic, right? This is about knowing in your soul when you're right. And sometimes in life you are. This is called Diamond Mine. Water rushing so fast it looks like knotted wood. Its sound a ceaseless perpetual crash in static blue and black. Droplets burst over the plank sides and dot the dirt or land on kicked-out bricks, and from the ravine's opposite angle the water seems to glide clockwise, rolling ever nearer toward the gears and into the factory where 7 years previous the core of the industry sunk unexpectedly early, and like a defense attorney the treasurer ruled the materials used were archaic and their methods unrealistic, and as demand seized up the foreman and night shift technicians acidly joke they were laboring within the Great Repression. For ages it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood that started in the diamond mine. We know it's either tacitly implied or we're told outright. You can't be seen like that. You need lights. When money is exchanged and you're finally responsible and realistic, you can't be seen like that. You need lights. Know the value of being articulate and reconsider your obscure subject. You need to stay in the lines. You need to revise. Realize the need to eliminate images that would be unwise to present or ideas you'd be unable to defend. Why persist if honest people cannot implicitly understand? You can't be seen like that. You need lights. For years, it seemed like the beams from the afternoon sun wouldn't come, but we later learned the view was obscured from a flood that started in the diamond mine. Back in the head office, on the desk next to the coffee, scissors, and gold pen set was a black leather envelope, and that morning's newspaper whose sub-headline read, Forgetfulness, and detailed a local photographer who makes elaborate, enormous, near-twin gelatin prints of events, one real, one staged, and described the effect as painting over paintings. When asked by the reporter who will get this, the photographer remarked, anyone who misses being pure or ever imagined placing one point in time over another, anyone who pictures the shape of ideas and not the shape of their own mind, anyone who sees a crowd and tries to find the people in disguise. Later, the paper lay open to the crossword puzzle, and among answers written in indeterminate script were asides like, does purpose follow appearance? Where is this from? Reasons better than because, and finally, determining what to become. I've seen the newly forming land, the beginning of the plan, the greatness of the expanse, the day, the brand new day, when nothing will be forced away. I've seen the angle of the road. I've seen the angle of the road. The expectation unfolds. The day, the newborn day, the newborn day will be coming, and the space will sweep us away. This is called Should I Go In? The silver pepper mill whispers to the hammer that she's an airport, and though she never really shows anybody, I still know that she's an airport. If you stop at her coffee shop, she'll charge you extra for a plastic tub. The well-water ice cubes have heard this tale told before, but she's an airport. A zebra's chewing gum can confirm the reports that she's an airport. If you take off your shoes after the security stop, she'll throw them in the air and they'll land in the baggage cart. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story that you'll want to pass along someday. Run down the runway into the center of the day where the sun is pointing down to the ground. Reach all the way down to touch your toes and remember a story that you'll want to pass along someday. She's an airport and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. She's an airport and her father is a farm filled with corn stalks. Her mother is a candy factory spinning reflective baubles. Color candy. If I could implicate, if I could talk to you, I will some more. And it's just like in today's world of opinion and denunciation and admirable like in pictures and friendliness and outward inliness. Maybe I'm on the thrust of that. She dreamed she was a train draped in robin's egg lace. She couldn't keep still in one place. She dreamed she was the only train running on the 4th of July, filled with whipped cream to burst and streamers to fly. She dreamed she was a train running past the impound lot, and after every platform on the route, she'd whisper, "I still love Phil. I always have and always will. To know him is to love him." She was sad when they closed the gates up at night. She dreamed she was a train filled with die-cast metal engines and cowboy hats ordered by the civil rights worker's favorite daughter. She dreamed she was a train and her earrings were flashing orange lights. She waves hello to the one car she'd stopped at the tiny suburban crossing, a train to get the tracks loose and rattling. Rattling tracks reminds her of those aunts and uncles talking over each other at her grandmother's birthday. 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 Birthday! This is a book a couple of years ago. It's weird that it's now a couple years old. It still feels pretty new. Called Apples and Ice Swimming Together in Soapy Water. This is from that book. This is called Parallel Place. I live in a parallel place where the land is level, where the streets are bright in the evenings and I know what tomorrow brings. I live in a parallel place where the wind is cold, where gray-haired men sweep the bandshell and foxes sleep underneath church bells. I hear the lank-haired women walking in the morning, their faces shaped by the sun. I live in a parallel place where there's endless electricity with very low voltage, where everyone dies of old age. I live in a parallel place where rain runs into a tunnel, where able-bodied women clear the gutters and dragonflies rise in slow-motion flutter. I see the able-bodied men hauling fallen branches, their faces shaded by the sun. I live in a parallel place where people speak in peace, where the foreman's spouse greets the mailman in a see-through blouse. I live in a parallel place where the forest faces east, where contracts are written in invisible ink and codes are created with a wink. I see all the people breathing through the day, their faces graced by the sun. Blissful cardinals, blissful infants, blue reflections magnified 10,000 times, blue beams bouncing off aged lenses. Radiant artifacts, radiant heirlooms, white sails blistered by the salty sun, white china stacked up in cupboards, shining domes, shining necklaces, green feelings balanced on a yardstick, green parchment weighted down by grapes. This is called Last Night We Saw an Angel. It's from a book I did in 2003 called Tracing the Dim Signal, which I'm extremely fond of. I was then and I still am now. Last night we saw an angel, the most beautiful woman alive. I've never seen anyone more graceful. She conducted every sound and flight. Last night we saw an angel. She tiptoed across our hum. She exercised her will. She made the light move faster from the sun. Last night we saw an angel, the most beautiful woman alive. She stopped the pageant and calmed the lightning in the sky. And since I'm naming books, this is from 2015. This is from a book I made called God Bless the Guests at the Banquet. This is called I Walk with God. I walk with God. I walk with God through all my changes, during my happiness, and throughout my challenges. I walk with God. I walk with God. close to my memories, through my mistakes, past all my actions. I walk with God. I walk with God for forgiveness, for resolution, to see the stages I play a role in. I walk with God. I walk with God because I know it's easy to fall into false humility or declare your own authority. I walk with God. I walk with God to try and understand as much as I can about the expanse of creation. I walk with God. I walk with God because of the moments when I see serendipity and grace expressed so sublimely. I'm only here to accept my responsibility. I walk through a world I don't like, and as time went on, I felt more disconnection. I walk through a world I don't like until I had almost complete separation of myself. I walk through a world I don't like, and this wasn't troubling. I thought it would help. I walk through a world I don't like, and that I could make a true observation and learn and improve. I walk through a world I don't like, but I found that the obverse was true. I walk through a world I don't like, and that the more I remain detached in considering the reflection, I walk through a world I don't like, the more I became unnatural and obsessed with my own protection. I walk through a world I don't like. This is called Windy Sequins. Through the missing bricks, you can see a banquet table with a candelabra crooked from water-falling wax. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a tablecloth with faintly gray cloth stains left by mourning doves. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table heaving with indentations from apples, persimmons, cantaloupes, and pears. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a deer walking in the distance while a finger painting floats to the ground. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table with unopened telegrams and sturdy silver trays stacked up with books about the Enlightenment. On the other side of the missing bricks, there is a pebble garden placed on a tree branch next to a mortar and pestle. Through the missing bricks, there is a banquet table lined along the bottom right edge with bowls of cold dandelion soup. Seated 45 degrees away from the banquet table is a man with a salt and pepper waxed mustache humming waltzes and complaining about the distortions of sounds and colors. 110 years old, and he doesn't know that electric blue can be beautiful too. We're doing okay out there? Having fun? Got through the whole first half and didn't have a single sip of water. All right. Silly stuff. All right. Oh, God. So, in 1985, the great, immortal, incredible band Husker Du released an album called Flip Your Wig. Now, Husker Du had two, Greg Norton, bass player, is great, but it had two equally matched visionaries with two extremely different artistic temperaments. So, the John and Paul comparisons are apt in some ways, but not really in others, because they often, with John and Paul, it seemed quite remarkable that they somehow could coexist in the same band. But Grant Hart and Bob Mould somehow were, in a weird way, actually perhaps even more complementary than John and Paul were, perhaps. They didn't overtly collaborate. They sort of left spaces for each other. And, they recorded, it is a staggering body of work. But one song written, so I say all that because I want to make sure that, Grant Hart is no longer among the living, and tends to get a little overshadowed because because Grant Hart made solo albums sort of here and there, whereas Bob Mould just kept on going and actually had some hits, decent sized alt rock hits. So I want to make sure that Grant Hart has his due. Who's the Lennon and who's the McCartney in that relationship? They're sort of both the Lennon. In some ways, seemingly the Lennon was really the McCartney, and vice versa. It doesn't. The comparisons don't really hold up. The guy who would be the McCartney was far more Lennon-esque in a lot of ways. But Grant Hart had made a record called The Argument just before a couple of years before he died. It's a phenomenal. It's like one of my favorite albums ever made at this point. That guy was absolutely fucking amazing. So I say that to give the man his due and to pay respect to people who really fucking deserve respect. But I'm going to read something that was written by Bob Mould, who's still out there. God bless him. It is amazing that he can still do it and do it the way that he does. So God bless him. But Bob Mould in 1985 wrote quite possibly the single most visionary, prophetic, prescient song ever written. Perhaps. I cannot think of a single songwriter that has ever seen into the future with such staggering precision. It's like he had a fucking time machine and wrote the thesis statement on what everything that is culturally bankrupt and awful about 2022. But he wrote it in 1985. He's a fucking visionary. Like a fucking visionary. So this is called Divide and Conquer, and if you can't figure out why I'm reading this, I don't know what to say for you or to you. Let us go. Well, they divided up the land, and we've got states and cities. Cities have their neighborhoods and more subdivisions. There's countries divided by walls and oceans and latitudes and longitude longing to find out just what they're missing. There's lots of area codes and 9-digit zip codes, secret decoder ring codes, arteries, shopping nodes. We'll invent some new computers, link up the global village, get AP, UPI, Reuters to tell everybody the news. We'll be one happy neighborhood spread out across the world, but who's going to stop the burglar from breaking into my house if he lives that far away? We'll be just like old friends, no means to your ends. The police state is too busy, and the neighborhood's getting out of hand. Big Brother on every wall. Muzak plays in all the halls. Empires see the rise and fall. They divide and conquer. It's not about my politics. Something happened way too quick. A bunch of men who played it sick. They divide and conquer. It's all here before your eyes. Safety is a big disguise that hides among the other lies. They divide and conquer. Well, I expect I won't be heard, 'cause my silence is assured. Never a discouraging word. They divide and conquer. They divide and conquer. They divide and conquer. They divide and conquer. This is, we have a new book coming out soon. As soon as we can get it out, it will be out. Still somehow haven't shot the art, done the artwork for it yet. I have no idea how that has not happened. But anyway, this is from the new book. The new book is called Slaw Posey, and this is a selection from it entitled, Perhaps Would You Believe Naked in the Sand. Standing in the shower, listening to the reporter on the radio recount the details of how he wrote his latest run of well-respected articles. Silly things that were said, what you'd normally forget, or what we use to create something we coined a forensic resurrection. Nobody knows how to tie the simple knots that I know. What they thought was evidence of a UFO were just streaks of antifreeze in the snow. The reporter reiterated that one successful story can take as much as 3 years' time, and that there's no greater gratification than being honored by your peers on awards night. They found him naked in the sand, Vaseline smothering his left hand. He'd already blown hundreds tipping strippers and thousands on room service meals and hush deals to keep the front desk girl quiet about what he'd done with the towels. As a saint, he could never realize that how you spend one night doesn't determine your way of life. Reverse gentrification, that's so stupid, the reporter said while wearing a denim shirt under a suede vest. That's what used to pass for journalistic integrity, I guess. The translation of what the guy was singing in the exhausted chanson was, "Any stick you want to beat me with is fine. I don't mind." The reporter said, "I'm only out for one thing. Someone whose head is round as a bowling ball and smokes their shame before getting hung up on by two inconspicuous guys, notable only for their new sharp suits and what was obviously pasted-on novelty facial hair. He used his winnings to lease a car he had covered in polka dots, though when the auditor pressed him for specifics, he couldn't remember whether it was his or not. They apprehended him naked in the sand while he was arguing with his bank about how much he was getting charged by OnlyFans, his ignored lunch being consumed by birds and ants. The reporter dipped his thumb in iodine, wiped it on his sweatshirt, and said, "What in the hell did I do that for?" Then he took another sip of his coffee that tasted like crayons, hoping to have some luck looking through locks. He stared longingly at the contents of his underwear drawer and wished he had a black mask and could march with Antifa. He yearned to field donation calls on behalf of PBS and resented being stuck making crumpets and tea for BBC US. And unfortunately, he was fingered on their steps while his students wept in silent disappointment, and his great aunt sucked on a bit of honey, pursing her lips in evident judgment and surreptitious enjoyment. They apprehended him naked in the sand. At least that's what his longtime agent said. He was fumbling for a cigarette and muttering that these idiots have no respect for talent. What else can be said but they found him naked in the sand, making demands in a country whose laws he could never understand, getting taken off past a hail of flashes, sending smirking, knowing glances to the twerking girls, making a fortune selling their asses. How are we doing out there? Hey, doing good. And along those same lines, cruelty-free heroin. Let us let us go. When the Guardian goes mad, the sun rains against the eardrums, indistinguishable from Morse code tapping out on a copper plate. Yes, when the Guardian has gone mad, they're found singing love songs to tanks, draping staircases and flags, breaking car windows to decorate their faces with the glass. When the Guardian goes mad, they're captured pushing a pickaxe into an LED screen and detained for threatening to throw stakes at gas station attendants. When the Guardian goes mad, people suddenly remember to turn on AM radio and patiently follow guidelines before filing a full report, though there are always doubters and passers-by who start conspiracy theories, the usual being that this was some sort of planned distraction. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll arrive at every award ceremony with a mirror in hand and a ribbon under their chin and make demands to review the voting processes when they don't win. If the Guardian goes mad, they'll rue the day they lost control of their relationships, spending weeks hiring PR staff to bury paperwork they'll insist doesn't exist, nor did they ever shit the bed really. If the Guardian goes mad, all their meals shall consist of orange peels pulled from chain link fences and burned coffee flavored with molded peach preserves. Though there are always doubters ready to offer an opinion of unverifiable proof, summarizing their death and maps are the only real measures of impact. And can you imagine being that fucking sick? If the Guardian cracks up, they'll spend bleak days envisioning trees committing suicide, grandmothers doing crystal meth for the first time, and gnats smeared into toothpaste. If the Guardian cracks up, 7 strangers stuck in a bank will claw at each other to seek cold air in the vault and wait for their families and firemen to arrive and dig them out. If the Guardian cracks up, pirates will walk their own planks and devour themselves once they hit the water, thrashing back at their gnashing teeth, running the seas red until hunter and prey are finally won. Ignorance, arrogance. The pest control man said unto me, when I was in Japan, I bought cherry bread in a can. I opened it with a knife and slid off the wrapper. The air bubbles stayed floating in my mouth, and I rolled them around and around and around and around until I returned back to the West. Bliss, tolerance. The pest control man said unto me, sometimes my apartment building turns into a vending machine, and I get deposited out into the evening to provide goods and services for lucky couples with good taste and a few wandering dollars to rub together. This is from the new book. Well, no, it's not from the new book. It's going to be a short book that follows the new book. It's all very, gotta, it's coming at you, This is called Jungs Wie Wer. And you better fucking like it, right? I remember when it first happened. Blue lines of cold soap stinging my eyes, spending the day sharpening pencils while waiting for waves to eventually splash across dusk, dissolving walls and words with their force. And even further back, having to choose which hand to write with, standing in front of people as punishment, memorizing the moon to see where the birds went, clicking, flickering lights down the hallway to the basement. Guys like us locked up in cars were never allowed to drive, blankly blinking at the dashboard and wheel until it's our time to finally fucking try. We feel the rain in the morning and stop wondering why we're alive. We can always touch what's in our second minds. And they lied about you, told your story grotesquely wrong, because we know you don't lose your juice when a simple thing nods. They tell us our memories and ambiguities are their rented properties. But we'll never eat from the hand of the beast. We've seen their hopeless savagery lead to nothing. because we spent the dark hours in their invisible cages, and they can pretend to learn, but they will never, ever really know. Guys like us taking wild turns, ignoring warnings about blind corners and peering through doors. Guys like us driving home late on a Friday night, avoiding being seen, changing lanes towards the promise of paradise. And we're just going right down the fucking list, man. How about some water? It's fucking musical, baby. It's called The Rabbit and the Cowardly Wolf. Who cares? An angry ingrown sore, spreading red and silently whining. The body? What body? Her body! A brace of muscle spasms in her right bicep. She'd observe her pet rabbit in its cage and skip past the turn of the century print in her father's office depicting a fox hunt, and yet, just one block away, another rabbit sat in the passenger seat, horribly embarrassed as the cowardly wolf got a breathalyzer and then failed to walk in a straight line. But back to the unnamed girl. I think it might have been Amanda or Amy. When one's head is round as a bowling ball and smokes their shame and presses bare-chested on saplings in the spring at dawn for an unobserved tiny tingle before the roll is called. Clearly mockery is uncalled for and exoneration is at a premium, but we shall not allow for a violation of definitions, especially for one as important to this narrative as Amanda or Amy. No. When the rabbit stepped down as the star of his own sitcom to attend to those personal issues there had been so many whispers about, the cowardly wolf suddenly was left without something to watch, emulate, idolize, sneak in a quick jerk during the commercials too, argue with, get enlightened by, surprised by, study, evaluate, grade, rate, review, proselytize on behalf of, display obscure knowledge of, and obviously whinge that it wasn't as good as the early years. And that he would know, since he was there before whoever he wasn't impressing. But since no other show gave the cowardly wolf the flood of serotonin he craved so restlessly, he grudgingly and pragmatically chose to watch reruns in perpetuity. And why not dress it up a little? For they could be revivals, or even better, celebrations. A new institution, a part of our shared experience and ongoing mounting heritage. Clutter Television was wrote. The rabbit and cowardly wolf decided to intercept their favorite actor's private plane as he touched down at the dullest airport you can imagine. The duo were hilarious to themselves. Is he wearing rayon? It's not like he couldn't afford Ultra Suede. After the actor greeted them with a few quick canned quips, he deftly inked two memories, and upon his departure, the cowardly wolf chided the rabbit about mistaking the actor's autograph for a pictograph. As they later sat in the 50s diner, their root beers run flat, the jukebox unplugged by the owner, silently urging them to leave. Who is that? But the rabbit had one question. Who was that fighter who won a round without throwing a single punch? It wasn't Willie Pep. And which one are you, an afterthought? We're loose like that. Ha ha! We're not fucking pro. Go get pandered to. If you don't like my sinuses, fuck off and go get pandered to. People lining up to do it. Welcoming back Amanda or Amy and those of you who have stayed. Ho, ho, ho. Ha, ha, ha. Yeah. No. I handed him my ovation and it wouldn't play. Total silence. He gave it back and I sounded like Segovia. He tried one more time and it was like someone had pressed a mute button. I see that you've just wandered in. Would you like to even account to yourself? Reverse gentrification. We've heard that before, children, haven't we? The committee smiles, the lead lawyer holding out a pen. The rabbit renews his contract, and his first project is a mystery called If Only You Were Innocent. Photographs, press conference, no disclosed details of the arrangement. He thanked his agent, Marty Weber, with a note and fruit basket. The rabbit's people punched up the script with gems like, "Son, you're a born fact checker, right down to the letter. I'll sell my secrets because I don't care." And of course, the hit slogan, the catchphrase emblazoned upon mugs and sweatshirts from sea to shining sea. Only dogs try to understand things. Meanwhile, the cowardly wolf had disappeared for 4 days to investigate a garden. He had wanted to make a biopic about himself, but he couldn't secure the rights. The rabbit and cowardly wolf slumped drunkenly against the back wall of their town, with only the moonlight reflecting off their wine bottle. Yet neither the heron and butcher's wife nor the laborer pounding spikes shall but feel a rigidity known in the necks, like the mechanic's racks that feels nor floats a lodestone on the banks betwixt a bell end and an alarm clock. Do you think it's wrong to contradict yourself, Seasick, since you are no longer allowed to enjoy a glass of water? The cowardly wolf mumbles a roar as that goddamn kid has taken his seat on the train again. Off the rails with that wretched decade. Then the remorse, the introspective postmortem, the fashion, the architecture, the music, media, technology, indecisive broad gestures, sweeping changes of the subject, inflating, placating terminology with warm sentiment. Cowardly wolf appears to ignore the newsfeed, deeply flawed, archaic, downright prehistoric. Dances over the line of self-parody so often you start to forget the ability to tell the difference. Pedestrian at best. An obvious forced version of what he used to do so effortlessly. I personally really miss Amanda or Amy. The rabbit and cowardly wolf get x-rays together, paw and paw at the clinic. Nothing's broken. They just like the way their jewelry looks against their bones in the photographs. At the ballet, the view from the private box is undisturbed, and the rabbit relaxes and holds a bucket of carrots. The cowardly wolf watches him gnaw. They bought tickets using pseudonyms and are wearing new suits with contrasting fedoras and little pasted-on beards. In between acts, the cowardly wolf yawns, "Must they always?" which the rabbit doesn't hear. Then the lights go black. Bare appearance. The rabbit bribed a policeman, and the cowardly wolf crouched behind a bush, filming it all. And while both are smart enough to accept that this is an inherently artificial medium, they can't stand exposition disguised as dialogue, or arbitrary structural decisions, or the limitations of the budget, or when some exec wants to cast his nephew, who's really a good kid and just needs a way to break in. Amanda or Amy, I've always had such a high opinion of you. Save your dignity. Don't call the press. Preserve the essence of drama, the command, the show that intermittently ends and begins. How are we doing out there? Good. Jesus. This is called Wilhelmina's Hazel Eyes. Wilhelmina often finds herself left alone in the family home for weeks on end, and as she eventually tires of tying her clothes into ropes and climbing in and out of the highest windows, she goes into her grandparents' safe, removing 2 small silver bricks, and then paints a bouquet of flowers charcoal gray and makes her way into the street, planting herself solidly before getting the entire structure to levitate. Some months later, she sits with the members of her sorority, who she terrifies by telling the story of when the time she was able to shrink a stray neighborhood dog who was then able to climb inside the cyst under her ribs. The sorority sisters are equally put off by Wilhelmina's powdery, soft Marilyn Monroe cadence as she states a carefully articulated, "The few of you are not a monolith. Keep speaking over me, and I will see you get incinerated." Wilhelmina knows that those defined as children are never really able to fully leave the prisons they're forced to endure their sentences in, though they know intuitively they have committed no offenses and are bereft of original sins. So she finds her headmasters and headmistresses and stares at their bodies until they become orbs of light and vanish into trails of odorless mists. This is one of the new pieces from the new book. It is called Remon Kori, and it is from the perspective of a woman. It is about a woman, a female bicycle messenger who lives in San Francisco. So that is all the backstory that one could need. You coo so prettily on the balcony, but I can barely think about that bird this morning. Instead, I'm focusing on how my leg muscles feel pedaling up this hill, while I can see the horizon bobbing and weaving. I don't eat breakfast until I stop, pancakes rolled around pineapple floating in a coffee cup, and I don't want to hear any idle conversations far or near. It makes me sour to hear the same phrases every other hour. When I speed up going downhill, I never brake, and I close my eyes and pray there's no one in my way. And when I'm out of the shower, I measure my calves and breasts with a string I snipped off my grandmother's wedding dress. I fetishize pedaling uphill, loud cars inches away from me. I like seeing the horizon bobbing and weaving and then greeting me hello. My downhill eyes measure up close when phrases speed up to my bird greetings. I say no, then shower and pedal until my muscles stop, makes my arm weave prettily. Hello, me greeting, then weaving and bobbing horizon. They see me like loud pedal to look at my breasts and my dress. Praying, close my eyes. I never break downhill. I speed up every hour, pedaling muscles. You, hello. I know. I can trust myself when I pedal. I know. I can trust myself when I pedal. Oh, wow. This is also from the new book. This is called The Subject Was Roses. You were in a swamp, had all your clothing wrapped up, wondering how you'd survive the torrential downpour, while I was in a car, unwilling to start feeling the clanking motor make my wrists ache, and my ankles were already shaking, and I've got no directions anyway. I feel like I'm a jackal. My chin is fixed, my teeth are yellow, wandering the plains and eating birds out of holes in the ground. And you are your own last cigarette, stubbed out and smudged, flicked ashes ruining your raspberry leatherette purse. I resent the past and the ice that is trapped, leaking out only one drip every year. Your head's turned back so far it could crack, and the more time passes, you know that after me all that's left are empty glasses. I burst from the waterfall, sprung and partially grown, a proud green thorn sticking out from a brass and leather crown. You were always an eyebrow with a gold hoop pushed through, colorless scar tissue you paid a surgeon to have removed. I will be the key, etched and preserved immaculately, in spite of the claims you'd be more helpful as a cloud of steam. You have a cataract and can only react to the terms of a contract by hiding it under handfuls of untraceable hairs. I said that I am a fact and can no longer reflect on frames speeding so fast they appear for years as closing motions of wavering poses. The subject was roses. That's really weird. Well, we will do... This is called Silber. It's also from the new book. I was quoted in your speech, but later you did not recognize my face. You broke my concentration with your fluttering interruptions. You asked if I wanted to dance, then passed me off to your date. The dust from your cracked gasp landed on the shoulders of my tuxedo jacket. I could not have expected the choir to pull out flutes and spend the night trying to find a tune to sustain a 21-part harmony. I could not have wanted a seat against the back wall where the wheels of the dessert cart kept rolling into me. How could you forget the poster of the pincer-nosed couple with a bleached flower countenance and gleaming jewelry and full evening formal wear, holding tins of caviar, boasting that they brushed their teeth with lard? All right. This is called Oliver Cromwell's Collage. Zero comes before the one, 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 zero comes before the one. River will run, birds will fly, the earth will turn, the sun will rise. Zero comes before the one, 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 zero comes before the one. Look at the fields, the rivers and skies. Day will follow night, spring then summer. The streets will be swept. We will work tomorrow. In the garden, in the building. Your voice was not made for stealing. Zero comes before the one, 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 zero comes before the one. There is no culture war. Those who vehemently take sides or stake their claim are playing a game, not whose outcome has already been decided, but whose outcome is a continuation of the game. Zero comes before the one, 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 zero comes before the one. Stuck still fighting the same battles, the rage, exasperation, recurring pain. But it works both ways. Part of the reason the problems stay the same is the way the problems are constantly pointed at with the same approach, the question constantly being raised, constantly being broken down to a children's song to see who's in or out, right or wrong. The daily reaffirmation is an equal factor in the stagnation. Zero comes before the one, 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 zero comes before the one. Sterility, tightness becomes impacted into lack of engagement and interest and joy, and that is terminal apathy. No retro, 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 no retro. Fuck 1941, fuck 1924, fuck 1977, fuck 1984, fuck 1991, fuck 2008. No retro, no retro. Fuck 1929, fuck 2005, fuck 1828, fuck 1989. No retro, no retro. Fuck 1994, fuck 1966, fuck 1955, fuck 1977. No retro, no retro, no more retro, no more burlesque, no more detractors, no more marketing, no more unanimity, no more nothing, no more slavery, no more sterility, no more fascism, no more frauds, no more mania, no more armies, no more factions, no more negation, no more lameness, no more cowards, no more manifestos. Zero comes before the one, zero comes before the one, zero comes before the one, zero comes before the one. All the dinosaurs drank from the same place, same bacteria, same reaction to change. The mosquito contemplates the lake, since it seems its view is infinite, and thus too vast to be narrowed down by logic. The mosquito feels panic until it switches perspective, and the lake becomes something else again, a mirror by which the mosquito can contemplate itself. The mosquito sucking on the back of the dinosaur, its source of nutrition, its home. The dinosaur lumbers forward, stuck in a thought, only able to do what it was taught. The mosquito becomes bored of its host. The dinosaur is only left with a swollen sore. The insect on the floor ran beneath my hovering hand under a door. The insect then stopped. Its voyage was complete. The insect saw itself as a hero at peace, certain that my shadow would soon recede. The insect on the floor, crawling across the men's room at the rest stop, had a real shiny shell, and I knelt down next to it, got a good look up close. And there was a fucking camera on its back. Started seeing my reflection in every surface. And though it was a beautiful scene, man, I immediately missed strip malls, parked cars, rushing water, Walgreens, and office blocks next to trees. I skipped sideways out of the exit and took a deep breath. All is one, 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 all is one. Nam Pravus. When you think you've thought enough, do the negation. When the past is safer than the present, do the negation. When irony is easier than reality, do the negation. When detachment is simpler than engagement, do the negation. When you see someone with enthusiasm, do the negation. When you encounter inspiration, do the negation. If there's an idea you don't understand, do the negation. Whenever you're uncomfortable, whenever you're inconvenienced, whenever you're irresponsible, do the negation. Everyone's right if nothing matters. Everything's fine if nothing happens. Do the negation. A joke within the suggestion. Do the negation. Got the answers before the question. Do the negation. Control the level of conversation. Keep the situation as it is. See something wrong, rein it in. Do what you've learned. Do what you know. Do the negation. Everything's right if nothing matters. Everything's fine if nothing happens. Your attention span is shot, and you know that's not something you can really fucking brag about. Is there beauty in an expanse of land, or does it have to be manicured? Take a lawnmower into the forest? Is an animal only there to do tricks? Can a vegetable be pulled from the ground, or does it need to be processed? Can I write these words without being published? Does something need an industry to make it exist? The industry creates customs create patterns, and the patterns become standards. The standards shift perception, ego, and judgment. The standards reach to nullify aberrations and contradictions, to achieve a seamless definition. The result is negation. Everything's right if everyone receives the same fantasy and thinks that it's their own personal destiny. Everything's fine if everyone agrees to use the same machines and be more ordinary. The former soldier on death row knows in his private moments what led him to this circumstances, grasps his stunted progress. He once followed orders in exemplary fashion. Now he sits in prison, no longer decorated, discharged, disgraced, and abandoned, and he says to himself, "When I kill for you, I'm rewarded. When I kill for myself, I'm exterminated." The crowd couldn't be more afraid. Crowd couldn't be more desperate. Nam verum. Have hesitations about his intentions? Do the negation. They're forwarding erroneous information. Do the negation. Can't devise their own language. Do the negation. Can only repeat verbatim. Do the negation. Imposing rules of debate. Do the negation. Afraid of a dialogue. Do the negation. Insists on petty confrontation. Do the negation. When they have no compassion, when they only know reaction, when they doubt your conscience, do the negation. She's been preparing for the birth of her child, reading through history and psychology. Her parents want her to have the baby baptized, but she knows that doesn't need to happen. She's been preparing for the birth of her child, to see it's raised smart and strong, to see it make a contribution and not be intimidated by anyone. She's been preparing for the birth of her child, eating carrots and leeks, exercising every day. She can't wait to teach her child to speak. In the court, the judge declines arguments, admits what's permissible, dismisses ideas that are intangible. The judge's robe is his albatross, festooned with cloves of garlic. He must instruct the jury. He must deliver the sentence. My foundation is secure. I believe in my energy. It's true, the greatest test of strength is caring. I want to see the sea. I want to be free. Open the ocean and let me in. Wear glass masks. Open the ocean and let me in! I want to be free! I want to be free! Open the ocean and let me in! Wear glass masks! Open the ocean and let me in! I want to be free! I want to be free! Open the ocean and let me in! I want to be free! Open the ocean and let me in! This is called... There's a weird amount of people who are voting for to increase military budgets. It's a very funny phenomenon from... you would expect it from Mitch McConnell, but it's weird when you get it from... I'm not going to name any names, but it's a little weird for the people who vote for the increase in military budgets or are pro-war. I'm not. It's interesting to it's interesting to note all of that, I suppose. So we are going to do a poem called Everyone. Too late in the evening, 7:45. That man around the corner lost his ring in a fight. Here comes St. Thomas walking through the door, found himself an auction, bought everything on the floor. I don't wake up too early, I don't cut my face, I don't call any strangers, and I don't go looking for their graves. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they won't. Half of what they couldn't and half of what they won't. Pork chops in the kitchen above the sink, there's a light. No milk on the table for the blink of an eye. Up the road is a driveway where they come out paid. Yeah, they come out smiling, dead cats in their way. Everyone gets half of what they want and half of what they don't. Half of what they wouldn't and half of what they won't. This is going to be from the short book. This is called Head Love. I can get two from one. I can get two from one. Drips down the spine, there's no limits in time. Never thought I'd be the type of guy to use a comb. Never thought I'd have to sneak back into my home. And here they are, a room full of uninvited guests, trying to grab me, hand me money, pin a corsage to my chest. Never thought a girl like you would paint with her toes. Never thought an ice cream cone would get you out of your clothes. But there the dress went up in the air, and now you're bouncing, throwing around my bedding underwear on the stairs. Now they're messing up my mind, posing me for photographs, fake smiles matching mine, and my anorexic fingers are twitching against a business card in my inner pocket. I can get two from one, I can get two from one. Telephone line down your spine, there's no limits in time. Lick a helmet, get a surprise. I shuffle off for free to find my destiny. I see an embossed flesh flash in the welcome itinerary. Lick a helmet, get a surprise. Climb up on my legs, I won't flex you away. It's the kind of image that will stain my brain. It's in the best way. Lick a helmet, get a surprise, take a picture of a wet spot. Never thought I'd be thought of as foolish. A penny to a pound stuffed in a pillowcase. Just got out of the shower, just let the towel fall off. Bent slightly toward the edge of the bed. Too much head love. Take a picture of a wet spot. I can get two from one. I can get two from one. Meals served promptly at 9. There's no limits in time. I see you yelling at the coat check girl. I think you're angry with the projector. I can get two from one. I can get two from one. You should be licking a helmet until it's wet. You should be sweating a wet spot onto the end of a flashlight. I can get two from one. I can get two from one. Lick a helmet, get a surprise. Don't worry about sneaking out of the lobby into the skies. And this is called Space Filter. Oh, it's going to be really slick and make the jump. We're not slick, though. We're not pro. He was one of these fuckers with a television face, long, thin, membraned fingers, 4-foot legs, and gray veins. You could see the channel change when his skin was peeled. His accent was badly pixelated tornadoes floating in from old movie posters. They love like miraculous spiking the water supply. She reads her monthly statements and hopes she'll get a surprise. She wins a hula hoop contest and sprinkles talcum powder in her eyes. Lies when interviewed in a sterile room by a queen without a kingdom, crown, and jewels. Festooned in a barren womb, carriage wheels on layaway. Her pussy is waxed on the 10th moon. She threatens to sue over any ingrown hairs. She bites the head off sparrows on her morning runs, then keels over and gets a warning for flashing a school bus. Their love is like the time they sprayed DDT into her restored chapel. She urinates, then masturbates with the corner of a biography about Ivan Boesky. Dr. Weather surveys the results and reports to the board. After careful observation and consideration, she finally found the holes in the thinking she'd been hiding, and that's when I knew she was pretending. She was pretending to understand. She was pretending. She was pretending to be a man. Dr. Fran makes a casting call. They talk in breathless circles about a saxophone player who won't blow a note without making double scale. They stand under paisley awnings in the spring rain. They go up and up and up and up and up and up and up. They pay attention to what the sky tells them. They have regression therapy from the bottom of the ocean. She says to Dr. Fran, the ocean is the most wondrous, large, indefinite amount of all. The ocean makes Dr. Fran shiver. Does it make him shiver? Shivers? Shiver. Does he believe that the water will withstand his rubber raincoat? She complains to Dr. Weather, the water is dry beyond belief, to which Dr. Weather replies, down, 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 into the darkness of the water. He slides gently in the wetting, the scorpion palms. Gently it goes. The numbers fall and rise. The checkerboard needs its companionship. The wondrous pigment of the ocean, ever-changing. She is destroyed. In a moment she immediately forgets. Dr. Weather regrets never answering his phone. Dr. Fran more in the little, large, lonely lake. She comes on the faucet and asks, does it make you shiver? Does it? The first time she was shown a dick, she asked if she could touch it, and he started singing A Whole New World, to which she laughed viciously and delightedly. He sees billboards that sicken him despite his noblest ideals. Dr. Weather comforts him that it's all right to be sickened. Why would you think nautical navigation is neutral when navigation is the wettest waterfall of all? Down, down, down into the tangle of purple pigments. Gently it goes, tearless and quite possibly rainless. She runs her finger against the chrome, presses it into her wetness, takes a selfie next to the blurry fingerprints and captions it, the wet water bottle spilled at 9 a.m. Dr. Fran drives to the banks of the little large lake and calls for someone who can deliver him hard-boiled eggs. Her legs are the pigment of the ocean, the wondrous rushing white of her cheerleading days. Protein gets out protein, but she always remembers to trace an outline from the stains. Dr. Weather can watch overdubbed movies all night. The blue lights reflect into his eyes. He recites down, down, down into the darkness of the water. And what will they find there? An underground shower, the nurse and the maid in a tangle of limbs and tongues. They look so much alike, they need a third to offset the symmetry. She rides a steed into the mists of the morning and cries, I've never seen the dew glistening such as this. It makes her shiver, like when the doctor mispronounces the name of her vulva. The antique baths on display at the exhibition make her shiver. He uses his hands when the lens gets fogged up. They go up and up and up and up and up and up and up. He can't believe what passes in polite conversation. Dr. Weather does not celebrate when the law allows for callow calls. She feels her nipples stiffen when her name is announced over the loud system. She brushes against the support beam. She moves her shoulders and shivers. Why would you think nautical navigation is neutral when navigation is the wettest waterfall of all? Down, down, down into the tangled purple of the pigments. Gently it goes, tearless and quite possibly rainless. Love God, not worship money. All right, we are rounding third and heading for home. They arrive every year this time. They put swimsuits on, they tell jokes and get the punchlines wrong. We set up the continental breakfast and watch the elevators come down. Before the wake-up calls, we're cleaning the halls. The tables are heavy. We vacuum the lobby. The rest of the morning, we're washing silverware and folding towels. I have to work a double tonight. I'm tired, but I don't mind. At least I'll get some overtime, but by 9, it seems like this shift will go on forever, because it feels like I'm living in a non-stop dream. The lights are always on. I can't sleep or run away, because I'll get in trouble. I can't believe they stiffed me on a tip. I carried their luggage to the street. This is real, so bite my lip and don't ever look back. Don't ever look back. I get so frustrated when they ask me to repeat things because of my accent, and then say it's so cute the way you speak, and I have to listen to some woman complain about the thread count of the sheets. I don't want to work tonight, but I really don't have a choice. I have to make what I can now because I won't be young forever, because it feels like I'm living in a non-stop dream. The lights are always on. I can't sleep or run away because I'll get in trouble. I can't believe they forgot to fill the pool with chlorine. Second time this week. Not my job, but they still complain to me. This is real, so bite my lip and smile politely as I can. Yes, I understand, ma'am. My heart really gets racing when their kids throw things. I can't wait to go home tonight, but it'll be okay, because it's either this or the Spoon Factory, and I can't wait to go home tonight. And this is our final piece of the night. This is the most important of them all. This is Always, All the Time. Now then, the present is the future, the history is present, the future is present, the present is present, and history is history, and we see the future pushed to the foreground wonderfully. All three, you and me, and God bless you, Diane. Orny, you're a very wise and wonderful woman, and as you once said, I hope our future is like flying birds. The weather is in the sea, gravityless moment, caught and dotted with cherry trees and colored pencils. There is very little in life that matches what I feel when you smile at what I whisper back to you. We're in the room and out of nowhere, looking at the inlet together in letters and circles, like a slit in the curtain, like a fluttering bird ready to bathe, like an oxidized copper fountain. I want to be with you always, all the time, like a white shirt with a fresh grass stain, like a street light breathing air, like waving from the top of a ladder. You plan all the plans always, all the time, like a strawberry on the counter, like fingernails washed clean, like a bee being curious of a new flower. You are adorable always, all the time, like pickled ginger on salmon, like a workbench in the sun, like an invention imagined. We are with each other always, all the time, like a cat cornering a grasshopper, like a licked stamp pressed with a thumb, like a rectangle with unbroken corners. You are mine, I am yours, always, all the time. And that, my friends, has been Spring Eternal. We hope that you've enjoyed it. And again, thank you to our opening actor. I don't think I said it before. God's Gift. They are really tremendous. They are truly God's gift, aren't they? Anyway, by the grace of God, we will be back next week at this time. And until then, just have a beautiful week. And again, thank you very much, seriously, for watching. And it's wonderful. And we love you. We love you all. Bye.